Welcome back to the Gravity Clubhouse. This is your first trainer tip. This tip is designed to be an alternative if you don't have plyo-rebounders. So in the gravity high voltage circuit, you know that there are two stations that use the rebounder. So if you don't have a rebounder yet, then I'll give you a couple alternatives to do to kind of replace those. So I'm going to bring some special help in. I got Chris Machine from the Sporting Club in San Diego. Welcome, Chris.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Good.
He's going to help me out today. First thing we're going to do, when you did your high voltage 1 exercise with the rebounder, we did in the transverse plane some shoulder work. So we did an internal rotation where we tossed, we stimulated external rotation, tossed back in, and the other was kind of a flow through to the opposite side. So we're going to come up with an alternative for you for this one, and we're going to use the GTS because we're going to imagine that you have 3 GTSs now or more to accomplish the exercise. So I'm going to get you set up here. I've got the pulleys out nice and wide, and what we're going to do, we call these eye surrenders in physical therapy. So what I'm going to have him do is go ahead and have a seat on the glide board facing the tower. And I'm going to go ahead and hand you these handles, and you're going to sit up nice and tall. And this is going to be kind of a high load, maybe 2 or 3 is probably high enough. You're going to sit up nice and tall, and in one motion, you're going to externally rotate both hands like you're reaching up to surrender. Guilty is charged, right? And then back, nice and easy. So we've got him up at a pretty challenging level here. I'm not going to have him do too many. So you can see you're still getting that stimulation in the external rotators of the shoulder. So that's alternative number 1. The second is going to be, that's perfect. The second, you can go ahead and stand up, is going to be a standing station because you're going to be in that same situation where you have one person on the GTS, one person on the floor. The second is going to be more to stimulate the external or the internal rotators, and we're going to do that through the transverse plane with kind of a high-speed toss in perhaps a single leg balance or a bilateral stance. So I'm going to hand you this. It's a 6-pounder. It's a big load. You going to be able to handle that, Chris?
We'll try.
All right, so he's going to get in a single leg balance and kind of do a perfect, a high-speed toss, and the tweak can be to slow it down or to just go into a bilateral stance. So he's got this one down, little toe touch to help him out with the balance. He's getting a nice stretch through the pectoral muscles, which simultaneously load those external obliques on the same side. So you would switch to the other leg on the third set if you go into a single leg balance. So you would go back to another set of external shoulder rotations and then finish off with the standing internal rotational load. So it's more eccentric. Okay, that is the shoulder transverse plane. The first exercise we did with the rebounder was the trunk sagittal plane. So we did some overhead ball work with the rebounder. So if you don't have the rebounder to simulate that movement, we're still going to have Chris work with a medicine ball. I'm going to give him the big 8-pounder today. And he's going to get into either a right stride stance or a left stride stance, get nice and comfortable. And again, we're going to work him eccentrically. So it's almost as if he's throwing into the rebounder, but he's not going to release the ball. So you're going to go overhead, really lengthen through the trunk, and really get back there. Good overhead reach, back and forth. So the focus really, instead of cranking it forward, I want you to just really go back, control, and then forward. Good. Breathing through the whole range, back and forth. So he'd do that for the first set. You feel that in the abdominals? A little trunk lengthening.
Yeah, for sure.
He's also getting some nice lengthening of that left hip flexor. Okay, the next one would be, we did the sagittal plane load here, and then we had the person that was standing go through the overhead toss. So we toss the ball up, come down to eccentrically load the back. So in order to facilitate a load in that same area, we're going to go to the GTS. So the GTS exercise is going to be what we call lying leg lift. So I'm going to bring this up just a bit more. When I raise the incline, it makes this exercise a little bit easier. So he's going to have a seat on the glide board. He's going to reach back with his hands as long as this is comfortable with his shoulder. You see his hands gripping on the glide board. The glide board is not going to move. We're just using the incline as an assistance device right now. So what I'm going to have him do is just tuck his hips and knees up into tabletop, and as he pulls up his knees towards his chest, He's going to lift the sacrum up off the glide board just for a second and then back down. The more closed your legs are, the easier it'll be. So if he starts completely flexed at the hips and knees, so flex your knees all the way in, and he does the same move, it's going to be just a hair easier. And you can tweak the range here. He's coming all the way up into full flexion. You can also just do a smaller movement. Now to tweak this up, make it more difficult, you would extend your lever. So he'd keep his legs either straight or slightly bent, and when you come up, as they come up, you're going to have to cue them to come up instead of swinging their legs back. Good, up and back. And if you want to focus on that eccentric overload, he can go short lever up, so knees bent in. He comes up and then extends his legs out as he slowly decelerates. Now that's tough stuff, so you don't want to give that to your first-time clients. Nice job. That's it, man. So those are a couple alternatives. If you don't happen to have a rebounder in your facility and you have that third GTS available, then you can either implement those or come up with something on your own for a sagittal plane load to the trunk and a transverse plane load to the shoulders. We'll see you next time.